Welcome to the Tax Alpha Solutions Podcast, hosted by Matt Chansey. Matt is a tax consultant, author, and certified financial planner with almost 2 decades helping his clients grow their net worth. On the show, Matt brings together an array of specialists to share with you their experience and success along with strategies of the 1%. Matt Chansey is with Coastal One, member FINRA SIPC. And now, here's your host, Matt Chansey.
There we go. So kind of what we've learned in this process really is just, when you get somebody on and you just kind of have a conversation with them, like we would have the same conversation on a pre-call that we're going to have on a real call. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And You just get a more genuine, kind of more authentic, like a little more body language, caught off guard because it's not rehearsed, it's not script.
Oh boy.
It's just who you are. It's what so.
Yeah. All right. That sounds good to me. No, I appreciate it. I like that better.
Yeah, so I apologize. My coordinator that was putting this stuff together for me yesterday I have a whole bunch of different stuff that I do, and I didn't know that it was coming in, so I didn't expect to look for it. And so when I don't know something's trying to get on my calendar a little bit, it catches me off guard. And I was like, wait, where did that come from? Like, because I need to be prepared, you know what I'm saying? So I just didn't know where it came from. So
no, I got you. No, I was excited to even be selected to potentially be on the podcast. So I figured that it's Monday. I got the calendar invite. So let me just jump on his calendar as soon as I have a second. So that also probably didn't help. So, I mean. Not
a problem. Your feedback was great because we went back and adjusted our process a little bit so that we don't have that miscommunication on our side, because how could you know? You're on the outside looking in. We just want it to look seamless and feel like it kind of works, so we just got to fix that a little bit. So, hey, I appreciate you taking the time. And, I did go and I looked you up a little. Look at that. That's fancy.
Yeah, I figured I'd throw that up there. Plus, I got people in the office, so you may hear some background noise and some walking around. This may help.
Not a problem at all. That's totally cool. So I need to that's a fancy one. I'm going to have to work on getting something like that for myself. So Honig, Conte, Porino.
Yeah.
Was like that close?
Yeah, Honig, Conte, Porino. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, as far as people go for the first time saying it.
Sure. Understood. So look, I did a little background. I read your website and, I kind of saw what you guys do a little bit. Looked up your LinkedIn page to kind of get a feel for, who you are and your background and understand what's going on there. And just, tell me a little bit about the context of, what made you decide that you wanted to kind of jump on this call and explore the conversations you were with.
You know what? One of the most important things about this whole industry is the connections and just being out there, right? If people know your name, what we've learned from like Geico and Allstate and companies like that is the more you're out there and the more people know your name, the more they're going to call you. So, I'm just trying to get out there. I'm relatively new in the industry. I mean, granted, trial by fire. I've been in the industry for 4 years now, and it's a family business. So for 4 years, it's been 24/7, not, 9 to 5. So it's a little different for me than someone else who's been in for 4 years. But you got to get out there. You got to make your name known. And the most important message that you can get to people as an insurance broker is that I am here for you and you alone. Like, our relationship is important, taking care of you and your needs versus, how much premium do I put on the books? That's kind of what we're here for. We want to have customers for a long time. And that's why I think that's different from other brokerages who just want to sell you the highest policy with the highest premium versus looking for the proper product for you. And being with you, we've been around 120 years. I mean, we have seen carriers come into the market and leave the market in the time we've been around. So we know what we're doing, and there's no cheap thrills, there's no nothing. We're here for our clients, and I like to think we're here to stay. I don't plan on going anywhere, so this is
Good
it.
stuff. So you said this is a family business. Are you part of that family? This is just out of curiosity because you threw it out there. You related? You blood related? You married into this thing? What happened here?
No, blood related. My father is the second owner. He took it over from his grandfather, who bought it from Mr. Porino back in the 60s. So, and then the Honigs are part of it, a big part. They're, my dad, Michael Conte and Michael Honig are the partners in charge, and the Honigs have been in the business for 4 generations. So they're a very long time in the New York insurance industry as well. So
Very cool. I'm going to assume, but I don't want to do that. Do you guys do business outside of the state of New York?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just about every state in America except Hawaii. There's no real connection between us and Hawaii, but
Sure.
actually, we do even insure something in Alaska. I wrote the policy the other day, so it was actually kind of fun. But we love the challenge of writing in other states. We think we get a kick out of it because we like being Manhattan based and having majority of our book in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut. But when we get the chance to learn the geography and the risks of another area, then that's what really excites us. I mean, we're kind of insurance nerds here. So it's Florida. Florida's a big spot for us. And it's really tough to write down there right now. The hurricanes are getting worse. Essentially, if you own something in Miami and you have a policy, there's just about no point shopping it out if you have renewal terms in hand, just because no one is writing new in Miami. It's just considered basically a loss for the carriers. They don't know when the loss is happening, but it will be a loss.
Sure, sure. I mean, I've heard the global warming conspiracy theorist that Miami's sinking and all the other stuff. And you're like, why would they be building all this crazy real estate down there if it's actually sinking and it's going to be underwater in a few years, right? So,
the insurance carriers, Florida is a huge issue. California is a huge issue too with the wildfires. It's mind blowing the amount of losses that are taken out there. So, and that has effect in the New York market as well. So, in order for the carriers to balance out their books, they take rate here, and our customers aren't too happy about it. And it's tough to explain. Oh, that wildfire we heard about on the news for the past few weeks, that's raising your premium. They don't really understand it. Quite frankly, I'm not the one modeling and I'm not the one who's creating the rate. So I'm just a poor middle guy who's got to deliver the message. But it's mind blowing how it all works, to be honest.
well, you're a self-proclaimed insurance nerd, and the people that are coming up with that financial modeling are self-proclaimed actuarial nerds. It's a whole different kind of nerd. So
Exactly. But nerds nonetheless.
but nerds nonetheless. And look, I think in today's age, honestly, nerd is kind of a compliment in a way. It just means I found something I like doing. I geek out on it. I spend a lot of time doing it. And you know what? You might not think it's cool, but I think it's cool and I enjoy it. Right. So,
No, absolutely. I mean, some of the best conversations. So we have people back in the office now. And one of the things I love about this office is we have short cubicles. So I can stand up and yell out to the rest of the office. And we talk about coverages all day long and how this coverage affects this property and what will happen if this happens at this property. And to be honest, that's my favorite part because you just get to see everyone's head pop up from their desk. And it's like, oh, they got something to say. And yeah, no, we're all insurance nerds and we just love what we do. And to be quite honest, we are really good at what we do. So that makes it all the better.
yeah, absolutely. I think everybody's, what's the old axiom? If you find a thing that you love to do, you've never worked a day in your life. And I think if you look at employment statistics around the country today, I think a lot of people are ultimately struggling to find that thing that they connect with, whether it's a passion for their core business or the way that the business is structured, right? Time requirements, flexibility. Yeah. Not everybody wants to work 40 hours. Some crazy people work 80 hours. Some people want to do it at 20. So I think the world is in flux right now. And the virus, which I'm sure has had some interesting ramifications to your business.
Yeah.
I saw that you guys do some type of a tenant insurance or property management type insurance and stuff as well. How is that stuff? How has some of the insurance programs and stuff you've done been impacted by what's going on with this COVID?
So with COVID, so our book of business, right? We just to give you the brief overview, we will write a renter's policy for $100 and we will write families that have $100,000 policies. So on the personal lines, we run the spectrum. When it comes to commercial lines, we run the spectrum as well. If you're opening up a bagel shop, we're here to insure you. If you are a lumber manufacturer who does millions in sales, we're also here to help you out. We can insure anyone. And so part of it was really sad. When COVID first started, you had all the business owners calling up and trying to reduce their rate because they we were closed. They couldn't make any money. So the policies were going for cancellation. You saw people's livelihoods stripped away. And I was thinking about that today because we got a couple cancellations in the mail for non-pay, but it's sad and it affects you. It's been kind of nice lately to see more people coming into the city, and we're selling a lot of personal lines policies, condos, co-ops, renters policies. So you see the people are coming back to the city, but on the commercial line side, we're still seeing vacancies in buildings. We're not seeing as many new businesses opening up, and the commercial lines book of business, we call them BOPs, business owners policies. And they're small, they're packages. The insurance industry came out with them decades ago just because it combines property and liability. They're our bread and butter. We love storefront businesses, right? Mom and pop shops. But we're not seeing them come. It's tough for them to come into the city. You have so many barriers to entry between the regulation, between the rent prices. It's still difficult for them to open up, especially because the patronage also isn't there yet. Um, People are scared, especially with Omicron going around. It was like, I'm not sure how much the businesses can take, especially the mom and pops, which is scary. But I think that we'll come back. The people are coming back, and the businesses will come back. And once once COVID goes away, New York will definitely come back for sure.
Sure. Well, I think the way it feels like these variants have come out, it almost feels like we might have some strain or some variant in our life for the rest of our life. This might be some
Yeah.
permanent thing. It mutates and then it comes back around the world every few months. Like it's just this. I mean, I'm not a doomsday or whatever, but this almost feels like it's kind of part of the new reality, right? And we're having to figure out how to
Absolutely.
function within that new reality.
Absolutely. I mean, we were just talking about it today. So Pfizer's coming out with their vaccine for Omicron. I just saw the article today, projected to come out in March. So what's after Omicron? I'm not that good with the Greek alphabet anymore, but so something's coming next. There has to be. It's something that's constantly mutating and changing. So I guess we will have to deal with it, and the businesses will adjust. There's a period for them to adjust. I don't think we've seen the end where they've completely adjusted. I mean, even in offices, who's working from home, who's not working from home. I can tell you, there were carriers, there were big insurance companies that were calling all of their employees back, and now they're sending them all home again. So everything's in flux. Everything's just. I guess that's where we're at right now. Everything's in flux.
Sure, it's just kind of a scary time. I mean, I guess with, sometimes you've heard the expression before in the past, from destruction comes creation, right? And so I
Yeah.
guess with everything being as bad as it is, have you seen opportunities, areas where you can take advantage, where you can pivot to that maybe weren't as fruitful of an opportunity before, but now due to that fear and panic on one side per se has created a new market opportunity that wasn't as fruitful as it was. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, so what we have been trying to do, and you're absolutely right. I told you before that more people are coming back to the city. So we're trying to get our marketing up there for people who are looking to move into New York. We want our names to be the one they see first. We want them to call us. And so we have been uh, adjusting our SEO strategy as well as, you know, my dad's old school. He loves paper flyers. So he'll send out mailers and all of that stuff and, just to see how it works. But, we're pushing our marketing initiatives to try and get the people who are coming back to the city. And that is pretty much how we're adjusting. Other than that, just throughout the industry in general, uh, travel insurance did not potentially cover COVID as like a reason to cancel your plans previously. I know that there have been insurers that came out to start insuring against COVID canceling your travel plan. So that's a new one. On top of that, oh, and you asked me before, how has the whole insurance landscape changed throughout COVID? Well, at first, everyone thought that their insurance policy would cover the business interruption of the pandemic. It didn't. There have been a lot of cases going to court, or a lot of court cases about whether there'll be coverage or not, um, regarding the shutdown, whether it was civil authority shutting down the business or the pandemic. But for the most part, no one's really been paid out. So that has been something that's even become even more ironclad in policies now. There's definitely, almost definitely no coverage for a global pandemic in any insurance policy. We even had personal lines people call up to sit there and be like, look, I can't live in my apartment anymore. Can I get the loss of use coverage activated on my policy so I can live somewhere else? And unfortunately, airborne and transmitted diseases is not covered, so we couldn't help those people out. But that's become even more ironclad. And in the meantime, the liability market's exploding. Reinsurance is so much more expensive for people to buy. So essentially, we've seen carriers up their prices tremendously when it comes to the cost of liability insurance. And just to get liability insurance, the costs are doubling, tripling. Before, when it cost maybe it cost $1,000 for 100 million in a liability umbrella. And these are rough numbers, right?
Sure.
Because there are select carriers that would have done that on depending on how much other coverage they had. But you're seeing them reduce capacity to 10 million in liability insurance, and if their premium was $1,000, then it's now $20,000. So the premiums are increasing and the capacity is decreasing. And we're seeing that also affect the personal lines in the high net worth space, because typically the high net worth space are the people who need the $50 million umbrellas, the $100 million umbrellas. And so that's really the issue nowadays. And that has emerged more throughout the pandemic just because the market's gotten a little bit more volatile.
Sure. I mean, I think everybody in their mind has been aware that of maybe the way that some people in the insurance function, or in the insurance space function, right? I mean, even if you go back to old movies like Aaron Brockovich, right? Deny the claim, and and never have to deal with it. So obviously, we've all heard stories about certain people certain companies saying, hey, they weren't covered for that. I'm going to deny that claim, this business interruption. So I think you kind of spoke directly to that.
So, and I know you work with high net worth clientele, and I want to say this because I have been speaking about commercial lines a lot, and I want to kind of pivot towards personal lines a little bit more. So when it comes to the high net worth, you have very good carriers, right? Carriers who are there to pay for, whatever, let's call them inconveniences, let's call them losses, let's call them claims, whatever happens, right? Your sink overflows and your floor is destroyed. Well, the middle market carriers, if it's your fault and your floor is destroyed, you can't put in a claim for that, because every time I want a new floor, I just run my sink. But the high net worth carriers will go out of their way to try and help you and bring you back to whole. Even though it is your fault, they are very good at helping you. So, I mean, even though deny, it's the
Look, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that's part of what you guys do, but I mean, come on, everybody has heard that in the end. If you've ever had a conversation with somebody, it's part of the conversation. They're just going to deny me anyway.
And so let me say this, because September 1st, we had one of the worst storm events in New York since probably Sandy. I don't remember the name of the storm, I'm sorry, but
sure.
For about 2 months after, and this is where an independent broker comes in, because we represent not only one carrier, we represent 20 carriers, 30 carriers throughout the whole industry. So we pick and choose who we put you with based on your risk appetite, based on who we think will cover your location, based on your makeup as an individual, right? So if you come to me with 50 million in assets, your house is $10 million, and you have Ferraris all day long, right? You're going to Chubb, you're going to AIG, you're going to Pure, you're going to Nationwide Private Client, you're going to a high net worth carrier. But if you have a renter's policy, down the street from our office, we're going to put you with Travelers, or we're going to put you with Allstate, or we're going to do something like that. Unless, you want a Chubb policy or a high net worth policy, right? But we have to analyze you as well as the risk. So long story short, that storm comes in. We have a young lady insured in Staten Island, right? Her basement is flooded. It's a horrible loss, right? Her bills are $100,000 just to get her basement repaired. And so at first, I don't want to name the carrier, but the carrier denied the claim. She called me, the carrier denied. Why is this denied? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I explained, flood is not a covered peril on a homeowner's policy. And I took a look at her policy and I go, but you do have water backup. And so if the water came up from the drains, then it should be covered. So she goes, she's talking, oh, my neighbor has so-and-so as a carrier. They were paid out, but I'm still not paid out. Why am I not paid out? So I got involved with the claim and I was fighting with the carrier for weeks. And this is where an independent broker is different than, a captive broker.
Sure.
We want you guys to have a good experience with insurance. We want to be there for your claims. We don't like deny, deny, deny. You signed a contract and the carrier signed a contract, right? That's what an insurance policy is. It's a contract. So after weeks of arguing, we got the young lady paid out $25,000 because that was the water backup limit on her policy. And I could not have been happier. It was very frustrating throughout those weeks, waiting for answers, talking to so-and-so, but eventually, yeah, it paid off. The client was happy, I was happy, and the insurance did what it was supposed to do, not deny, deny, deny.
Sure. I think you brought up a good point there. And if you want to touch on a little bit more, I'd be curious. I think people always have a curiosity of what's the difference with potentially using a broker and going directly to a carrier and somebody that's, captive or that represents a single source. So, kind of talk about your experience with that and why you feel like there's maybe the advantages and disadvantages of each, I guess.
Sure. So, to be honest, I'm very biased. I don't have a good reason for anyone to be with a captive carrier. I mean, nowadays, really, State Farm and Geico, really the only captives you have. Allstate opened up to independent carriers, independent agents. So we write with Allstate. We write, if it comes down to premium for you, yes, you can go with a captive carrier. But when you come to an independent broker, be ready for a conversation about coverages. Be ready for a conversation about what you have and your risk appetite. Because I don't like insuring people just to make a $250 sale. I will make a $250 sale if that covers you and that is your risk appetite. But if you live in 1,000 square foot condo or co-op in Manhattan, and you think that you need $5,000 in dwelling coverage because you want to pay $250 in premium that year, the math doesn't add out. We're at about $250 per square foot on rebuild, so you should have at least $250,000 in dwelling coverage, right? You're responsible for the floors, walls, and ceilings in. So I would like to sell you a policy that will cover you, because I lose sleep at night thinking about, oh, does so-and-so have enough coverage on their rebuild? Like, if there's a claim, they're going to call me angry. I don't want to have that angry phone call. I want to sleep at night knowing that you're covered and that if something happens, we're good. And you're going to call me up thanking me that you have the right carrier and the right coverage. Now, we lose policies all day long to people who go to State Farm and Allstate, and they lower the premium. That's great. I'm happy for people to lower their premium, right? I want to sell you the best coverage at the best price. But when you go to a captive carrier, usually what they do is they cut your coverage in half, and then your premium's cut in half. So obviously your premium's going to be less. But, independents versus captives, we have the breadth of the whole market. I can tell you what carrier goes where, and, depending on your geographic location and the risks, that's, I think independents are more well-rounded, and I'm ready to have a coverage conversation versus a premium conversation.
Sure. I think it's, in my experience in the business, and maybe you'll echo this, I typically find the people that are captive, the captives tend to be the biggest behemoth brands in the industry. And
Mhm.
you've got that brand recognition behind you. So yes, you might not be
Yeah.
as talented or you might not have as many solutions, but you're walking in with this big old 800-pound gorilla of a brand behind you, and you can win business that way, right? So
Yeah.
whereas being an independent, even though you might be offering a more diversified solution and talking and really walking them through the risk profile and how you price that, like if they're unfamiliar with you and unfamiliar with your name as an independent shop, then it makes it a little bit harder.
And that's where it comes back to why am I on it? To get my name out. Because we are here to take care of you versus, you could be Jeff Bezos, if he's got an Allstate policy, if he even insures with anyone else, if he doesn't self-insure, that's wild. But if he's got Allstate, I don't know what he's doing. Like he should call me up. But when you think of insurance, you think of Allstate, you think of Geico. They spend billions every year just getting their name out there and getting in front of people. And the carriers I represent don't necessarily do that, right? So, and that's why, yeah, they'll call up Allstate. It's the first in their mind. But will they take the best care of you? Will they be there for the claim? My father, in May, we had a fire loss down in Soho, right? 4 a.m., he got a call from the building owner. He was there at 4:30 in the morning. He was there while the building was on fire. He was there the next day. He was talking to the adjusters. He had a public adjuster there. He was managing the whole claim as best as he could, as well as helping the building owner understand that this will be rebuilt. Even though it was on fire, you're going to get your loss of income. You're going to get the building rebuilt, and you will be back to normal, because that is an insurance broker's job, to get their client back to normal. So, that's one of the success. It's terrible there's a fire claim, but I brag about that because I don't know anyone else in the industry who will do that like, we do, or like my father does.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing a good story. I mean, those are always important for people to connect with. I mean, you never think about your insurance person as somebody that you want to have a warm and fuzzy conversation with, but like those people probably in Kentucky that got hit by those tornadoes recently, and the story you just gave, at a time like that, it might not be friend, it might not be family, but if your insurance broker shows up and say, hey, this is what we prepared for, it's unfortunate, but we're going to take care of it. Like, that's your time to shine.
A pipe burst in your apartment, a fire loss. They're once in a lifetime experiences, hopefully, but you talk to people all day long who have these experiences throughout the year, because that's our industry. That's our job. We know how this works. We know how an apartment gets rebuilt. We know the contractors. We know the adjusters. We know what's going on with, probably what's a life-changing, horrible event. We've seen it. Whether it's firsthand or secondhand, we've been there, and we're here to help you along the way.
Understand. And by the way, we're going to hashtag this Jeff Bezos insurance review. So just in case he's not sure who to call, like
if I get a call from Jeff Bezos, I won't be able to speak. I'll be so starstruck through the phone. I'll sit there with my mouth open. I promise you.
He's going to go, what's this self-insure thing you're talking about?
It's going to be great. Oh,
that's
God.
awesome. So I think those are some great examples. And I think too many people get tripped up. You talked about discounting the price of the policy. And I think too many customers don't understand the difference between price and value, right? Price being what you pay, value being what you get when the chips are down, when it's a tough time, right? And I don't think clients always understand that. And I think you articulated that pretty well, because the value of somebody standing there holding your hand while you're watching your stuff burn and saying, we're going to fix this, it's going to be okay. I think that's a big deal.
Well, and that's another important difference between the captives and independents. Independents, you're offered a full suite of, we write the policy, we service the policy. When there's a claim, we will be there for the claim. We will help you through the claim. If there's issues with the claim, we'll be on the phone with the carrier for months. But when it comes to a captive, you don't know who you're talking to every time. Maybe you have an Allstate agency that you'd speak to, or an Allstate agent, but you can still call the Allstate mainline, and an agent out in wherever could speak to you, and when they get a claim, they just put it to their claims department, and you don't know who's helping you there either. So That's another important difference between carriers, captives and independents.
Sure. So when I was reviewing your website, I saw in there with your insurance suite, it says that you guys do offer life insurance to customers. And so it's obviously different than the stuff that we've talked about. But I guess my curiosity with kind of a health scare related issue going around the world for the past couple of years, have there been more inquiries on like, and I don't, maybe you have some other products, disability and other stuff that's connected to that. But are you guys having more of those conversations? And what is that looking like? Because now we're not talking about real estate burning down or whatever. We're talking about people, right? So like, how has that narrative changed?
So, and this is the part where we're building up our presence in this. We're mainly P&C, and when we do get a call for life insurance, the Michael Honig and Michael Conte, they usually take that call and they discuss it with the insured. Or we will refer out to a partner life agency who solely deals in life, who can sell you any life policy, talk you 6 ways to Sunday, just so you understand it, But I can tell you that there has not been an increase because we have 16,000 clients, right?
Sure.
So I deal with many phone calls a day. I speak to many different people, and there's not necessarily that increase in people who are concerned about life insurance or looking to get life insurance. I mean, I think most people just have it through their job at this point, and they're comfortable with that policy. They don't understand that, if your kids are going through school, you may need a little bit more life insurance during that time because you will have to pay tuition or someone will have to pay tuition if you are not there to provide. So I'm not sure the importance of life insurance is also abundantly clear in society. But, that being said, it's offered as a benefit through most people's workplaces now. I can't tell you for sure if COVID is covered. Actually, yeah, it is. If you die.
Yeah, if COVID kills you, if they underwrite you and they give you the policy and then you die from COVID.
I know. I did hear that for a good little bit there, life insurance companies did stop putting some business on the books.
Sure.
Like they took a break from it just to try and understand what was going on. I mean, how could the actuaries even adjust for a global pandemic? It's mind blowing, but definitely there was a little bit of a pause there, and now they're back. But like I said, I'm sorry, I don't necessarily deal in the life and health space as much as the two capos, but.
Sure. No, understood. Hey, sometimes there's an opportunity in the, if you're dealing with a real estate owner, right? If they've got a mortgage on the property, sometimes collateralizing the mortgage with a life insurance policy, heaven forbid, if they were to pass away, it pays off the payment to the bank. I've heard people, use that as a particular strategy sometimes before. So,
No, trust me, we're going to get one of the big plans since I've come on board in 2018 is to actually develop a life department and to build that out a little bit more, just to round us out. I mean, independent insurance brokers have been bought up like crazy by the bigger Accusures, by Aon, by Marsh Mac. So we're one of the last around that's still independently owned. I mean, family owned for 120 years. And we're not going anywhere, and we're not governed by a bigger entity. So we can still build out departments. We don't have to run through anyone. We can be as agile as we want. And that's, we're still in the growth phase. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to not be in the growth phase of what we do. So whether it's building out life and health or group benefits or disability or anything like that, we'll eventually get into all of it for sure.
Sure. Well, let's talk about that. You said it's a growth phase. So it looks like it's kind of you might be the new blood. You might be the next generation to carry on that next 100 years, right? You might be part of that. So the old schoolers did it in one way and grew the business in one way. And like you said, flyers before and other stuff. So what are some of the initiatives and how are ways that you're acquiring business and how do you get introduced to your clients today? And what are some strategic vision about how those things might continue to grow?
Yeah. So one of the best things, I actually think this is kind of cool, right? I'm actually not quite sure how old Mr. Honig is. I never got I've known him for as long as him and my father have been partners, but his age has always been ambiguous to me. But I know there's a good age gap between him and my father, right? Maybe 15 to 20 years. between Mr. Honig and I, there's 15 to 20 years. So there are differences in how we see everything, right? My dad, he's pen and paper, he's at his desk all day, he's in the middle of the sales floor, he's making sales, he's picking up the phone, he's servicing, he's doing everything. Mr. Honig, he's technology driven, he's doing really the banking as well as running the marketing campaign. We own coopinsurance.com, so we get a ton of leads through there, and we're working on our SEO. We're upping our social media presence as well as our web presence. But one of the things that there's not many young brokers or young agents out there right now. So what I like to do is I like to go to events and meetings, and I like to meet these people, and I like to just put my name out there and let them know that if you do, eventually potentially want a job being a producer or anything like that, give us a shout. Like, we'll come up with something. We're old school. We're old school. Like, we will make a deal and we will go forward. Like, that's how it's part of that agility. So whether it's increasing departmental, range of products, or whether it's changing around our admin system and our processes and how to become more efficient, service more people quicker and with better outcomes, that's really, it's like a threefold process. Plus also, I am the young one here, and it kind of feels like I'm a yappy dog sometimes, and I'm just trying to get everyone to run around and start moving a little quicker. But I think, my mother works in the business too, and what she did tell me, and maybe she's just being nice because she's my mother, is that when I came into the office changed, and for the better. Like, everything got a little bit more tight, and everything got a little faster, and it became a little bit more enjoyable for everyone. So that's
Sure.
you
Some
know
new blood,
yeah,
there, right? Yeah, absolutely. And
exactly.
bring that new energy, that new infection, that new excitement. I mean, look, being a younger guy, you're supposed to be like either a social media influencer or like a travel blogger. What are you doing going into like an old school industry like insurance? What are you thinking, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And what I think is cool is, like, I like the concept of combining those two. The other day we were talking about putting cameras up in the office so that I could get some content of us talking about coverages or like some of the antics that go on throughout the office. I mean, we had scooter races throughout the office the other day. I don't really know another insurance agency that's doing that, but
Are you guys covered for that? Like, what kind of coverage do you need for a scooter race in the office?
no, we just made everyone sign a waiver, verbal agreement. That's it. But that was stuff like that I just think is funny. So yeah, combining that, the being the influencer, having the social media mindset, and being in an old school industry, I think that's cool. I mean, you hear all day long about these insurtech firms, or at least I do, right? I'm in the industry. You got
Sure.
Lemonade, you got Hippo, and you plug in your address, your name, your age, you get a rate. That's amazing. We love firms like that who are upstarts just because they're really shaking up the industry. They're being the yappy dogs to the old carriers who haven't upgraded their technology, who haven't, really done much since the computer was invented, right?
Sure.
So I see a lot of myself in them, but I think that, the industry is changing for sure. Between COVID, between influencers, between technology, between everything being on your phone, it's completely changing. And having those generational differences between my father, Mr. Honig, and myself helps us tremendously.
Yeah.
It's a different perspective throughout, and I always think that's, I think about that throughout the day as I'm here, like, just on problem solving basis. It's very interesting to see how one solves a problem versus the other versus myself. So it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
The old school and the new school comes together and creates a solid mashup, right? So
Mhm.
absolutely. Well, let me ask you, and I kind of wrote some questions. I wanted to make sure I got the stuff out right now, but and I think you've even covered some stuff and pivoted in some great ways. So I appreciate,
Good.
you kind of thinking through the process and helping me work through it. But sounds like you got some great guidance going into this career. Hopefully, are you seeing a lot of young people that are interested in this as an industry? Is this something that you would have done per se had you not have had family ties and some influence, or you'd have been like, I'm not going into the insurance business? Like, are you seeing any other young people that are kind of wanting to use this as a career path?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I did touch on that a little bit, but I want to expand on it, right? No one's coming into this industry. No one's opened up agencies. No one is choosing to be a producer. The people who are my age that I find are needles in haystacks, especially because, insurance is funny, right? If you want to be a producer, you go out and you get licensed and then you sell. That's it. You're a salesman your whole life. So essentially, right? If you do a good job, you sell here, you keep these people on the books. You sell more along the way and you keep everyone on the books. Now, all of a sudden, let's say you started when you were 22, right out of college. You don't even really need a college degree to be in insurance, but it helps, of course.
Sure.
But like by the time you're 30, you got 8 years of experience. You got a book of business that's dynamite, and you can sell that book of business. You can partner with a firm. You know, I don't really think people are being their own bosses nowadays. I mean, I joined the firm because my father asked me to come in. I think you saw on my LinkedIn. I was real estate heavy. I got my master's in real estate. I was working at CBRE. I consulted for CBRE, and then I worked at Freddie Mac, on the commercial mortgage-backed securities team. So I was real estate driven, and coming to insurance was a bit of a shell shock for me. But just to think of myself always as a real estate person and then drive into a different mindset. But every day is a different challenge because, like I said, it's a puzzle figuring out what coverage fits so and so versus, how is this coverage gonna like help them in a claim, or how, it's a puzzle for everyone else. Plus, selling happens to actually be a lot of fun, and you hear a lot of different perspectives from people on just everything. I didn't realize I like talking to people so much until I was forced to do it all day long, right? So, but no, the people who are in the market right now, who are my age, are very impressive, especially if they're producers. They're, God,
There aren't many, but the ones that choose to do it choose to be good.
yeah. And because they see the future potential of this industry, who
Sure.
I think our industry, right, insurance, is going to have one of the biggest turnovers in the coming years of all of the business industries. So a lot of people see this as the time to build up who they are, their reputation, and what they do. And then when that turnover happens, well, then they can climb the ladder exponentially, both as an associate and as a producer, right? I mean, it's like a lawyer never quits being a lawyer. An insurance broker, if he's good, he's never going to quit being an insurance broker just because that renewal commission that comes in for people that like you, for people that you've done a good job for, will always come in. But eventually those books will have to move to someone else. And those products and those homes and those businesses, the insurance will have to go to someone. So if you're there, if you're around and your name's big enough and people know you, they'll call you.
Yeah. Well, look, real estate's been around forever, and everybody touches real estate every day in their life, whether they realize it or not. Even if you go in and buy a cup of coffee, you had a real estate transaction, because if that piece of real estate wasn't there and it wasn't appropriate for selling coffee, it wasn't in the right location, you wouldn't be there, right? And we touch insurance every day in every way, whether we realize it or not. They're old school industries. They're not going anywhere. They might not be sexy, but you've got too many people chasing sexy and shiny today. And I think you've built some fundamentals with some core industries. And besides, one of the things that you see all over social media today is, hey, go find your side hustle, build residual income. Well, hey, what does your job have built into it, right? Take care of your customers. They don't go anywhere. They renew their policies next year.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're always here to help people, but there are customers on the books who we don't hear from, and they renew their policies. We love you and we will be here to help you as much as the person who calls us every day. But I mean, we love all our customers,
Sure.
but we don't have a cost of product in this industry. We have a cost of, human capital. So the more human capital we spend on someone, the less we make them. So that rings true for the biggest of accounts. If you have $100,000 in premium that you're paying every year, but you have a team of 3 people who are working 3 days out of a 5-day work week for that account may not be so beneficial for that insurance brokerage. So that's, those are things that you have to think about throughout when you're managing the agency. I mean, even And we like people who are happy to talk to us too.
Yeah. Well, look,
Yeah.
a lot of people have a negative stigma towards sales, and I really think that they have a misunderstanding of what sales is in its truest form. Because it's about building relationships, it's about educating people on how you can solve their problems, and it's about demonstrating and adding value in their lives. And if you can do those three things, you'll build customers that'll stay with you for a lifetime, no matter where you go. So, and I think it sounds like your predecessors, have laid that foundation. It sounds like you're kind of following in their footsteps. So we're kind of getting close to the end of our time today, but let me ask you a question. If there was something that I didn't ask or something else that you would want to say about what didn't I ask that I should have asked? What do I need to know that I don't know?
Okay, here. All right. And this is for the high net worth clients. I know, that's a focus is right now the high net worth industry is very difficult. And it's expensive too. You have Chubb rebalancing their book. You have AIG, who's for our agency, I think it's different per agency, but if there's a policy under less than 10,000 in premium, they're cutting it out. So you have these high net worth carriers rebalancing their book, both increasing premiums and cutting customers out. And it's a tough sector right now, but there are new carriers who are coming into that industry who are putting pressure on the old guard, AIG and Chubb, to make changes and change their ways. And so you're seeing Berkeley One, Cincinnati, Volt, Nationwide Private Client. There's 4 new carriers in this sector. So, how they compete and how their claims practices will develop over the coming years, right? Chubb is still the old guard, and they have the courtroom experience with the lawyers and all of that to help out their clients. But definitely the high net worth space is very restrictive right now. Restrictive insofar as the premiums are going up, and shopping around is really the only way to get a lower price. But it's very difficult right now to insure a $10 million home and someone be happy with the premium they're paying, especially because the message they hear all day long is from Geico and Allstate, save money on your insurance and all this. Your cost of insurance is directly proportional to the net worth of both your asset as well as you. So it's a tough sector. I mean, the high net worth is one of the more challenging puzzles that we need to figure out when we're insuring someone. But I think that I find the more challenging puzzle the more fun, but it's definitely going to change a lot in the coming years, both with carriers coming in and the old carriers, what they're deciding on what they're going to do with their clientele as well as their business. Plus, add in the InsurTech factor, where we have Chubb creating an online portal for people to essentially rate and buy policies on their own. Their use of independent agents. Being an independent agent is interesting because you have to work the middle ground. You have to have the relationship with the client and with the carrier. Sure. So it's you're walking a tightrope, and you have to make everyone love you at the end of the day. And I think we do a good job of that. But it's interesting to see how both parties react and how the market evolves for independent brokers. And I just, last point, independent brokers are the best. Choose an independent broker over going direct with a carrier any day.
That's another hashtag. Independent brokers are the best. There you go. Well, Peter, go. I appreciate you being here today. Why don't you tell everybody how to find you? If we were going to look you up, how would we find you?
Yeah. You can call us at 212-777-7113, and we're all happy to help you. And we have a whole team ready to, pick up the phone. Or you can find us online at honigconte.com. That's it.
There you go. And I looked him up on his LinkedIn account, and he looks just like that. So it's really easy to find. So, all right, everyone. Well, I appreciate you tuning into this episode. And that's it for today. And I'm going to...
Thank you for listening to another episode of Tax Alpha Solutions, brought to you by Matt Chancey. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's guests and insight. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts.